I banned my brother's toxic BFF from my wedding. He called me a vile bigot. Then she unleashed hellish online harassment. My dream wedding, the one I'd spent months planning with Liam, the love of my life, was seconds away from turning into a total disaster. And it wasn't because of weather or budget or some last minute vendor screw up, no. It was because my own brother Mark decided that his toxic girl best friend was more important than his actual girlfriend or my happiness. It started with a normal conversation. I messaged Mark asking if Leah had any dietary needs. She's his long term girlfriend. She lives with him. She's sweet, thoughtful, kind. Everyone in our family loves her. So I just wanted to make sure everything would be perfect for her at the wedding. And that's when Mark dropped the bomb. "Oh, Leah's not coming," he said casually, like he was telling me the weather. Amanda asked if she could come instead. Great chance for her to see the old high school gang. My stomach dropped. Amanda. Just hearing her name is like hearing a fire alarm. Amanda is chaos in heels. This is the same woman who's been stringing my brother along for years, always dating other guys, always ignoring him, until she needs emotional support. Then she crawls back, cries on his shoulder, and takes over his entire world. And Mark lets her, every single time. There was the Spain trip. Amanda's boyfriend dumped her right before they were all supposed to go. Instead of canceling, Mark, who was in a relationship at the time, ditched his own girlfriend to go with Amanda, alone, because she felt uncomfortable. His girlfriend broke up with him on the spot, and he acted like the victim. That's who Amanda is. She's not just manipulative, she's mean. She makes cutting little comments about other women, always just barely subtle enough to pass. She thrives on drama. Every single social event she's at turns into the Amanda show. A meltdown, a mysterious "someone hurt me" speech, and then either storming out or demanding to be left alone while everyone else walks on eggshells. Now imagine her doing that at my wedding. So I told Mark, flat out, no, Amanda's not invited. If I wanted her there, she'd have an invitation. She's not welcome. I reminded him the invite was for his household, which, by the way, includes Leah, his actual girlfriend, the woman who should have been his automatic plus one. He didn't care. He exploded on me, called me a control freak, accused me of being sexist, said I just don't get opposite sex friendships, which is hilarious because Liam's best woman is a close female friend and I adore her. But this isn't about friendship. This is about Amanda's grip on him, the way she dominates his time, his emotions, his entire life. So I stood my ground, calmly but firmly. You can bring Leah, or you can come alone, but Amanda is not setting foot at my wedding. In fact, I'm inviting Leah myself. She deserves to be there. That's when he really lost it. Shouting, red in the face, told me to stay out of his business, said I was tearing the family apart. But let's be honest, he's the one who chose Amanda's drama over my peace. And in that moment, I realized something awful. My perfect wedding? It might still happen, but the dream version, the one with love, joy, and family support, that version was already starting to unravel. All because my brother couldn't let go of the one person determined to ruin it. The silence from Mark after our explosive argument was a suffocating blanket of disapproval. He didn't call, didn't text, just radio silence, letting his anger fester. My mom, bless her soul, was absolutely livid with him. She called me almost immediately, her voice crackling with indignation. "I told him, Sarah," and that's me, by the way, "I told him he's being a selfish brat, and that Amanda is a manipulative witch. He needs to grow up and see her for what she is, before she ruins his life completely." She'd apparently had a screaming match with him, which, of course, went nowhere. Mark just dug his heels in deeper, convinced he was the wronged party. Dad, in his usual conflict-avoidant way, just sighed and said it was a lot of unnecessary drama. Though he quietly admitted to Mom he thought Amanda was trouble. He just didn't want to be in the direct line of fire. Liam, my rock-solid fiancé, kept reminding me I'd done the only thing I could do. "It's our wedding, love," he'd say, holding me close, not a stage for his messed-up friendships. Then, after 2 days of this tense quiet, my phone lit up. An unknown number. My heart did a nervous flutter. Mark? Finally seeing sense? Nope. It was Amanda. And she was on the warpath. Her initial messages were a masterclass in manipulative entitlement. Now, Mark is devastated by your cruel ultimatum, Sarah, one read. How could you be so heartless? He needs his best friend by his side, especially during big life moments. I've been a constant in his life, unlike some others. The dig at Leah was unmistakable. She then had the gall to say, Don't worry, I'll smooth things over with him. He'll come around, and of course, I'll be at the wedding. Wouldn't miss seeing the old gang for the world. It was signed off with a breezy, See you there, XOXO Amanda. I felt my blood pressure skyrocket, the sheer, unadulterated audacity. I took a few deep breaths, trying to channel an inner calm I didn't feel, and typed out a response that left no room for misinterpretation. Amanda, I wrote, my fingers surprisingly steady. Let me be unequivocally clear. You are not invited to my wedding. This decision is final and non-negotiable. If seeing the old gang is your priority, I suggest you arrange a separate gathering at a different time and place. Should you choose to ignore this and appear at any of my wedding-related events, you will be immediately escorted from the premises by security personnel, and if necessary, the police will be involved. Do not contact me or my fiancée again. I hit send with a sense of grim finality, a tiny part of me hoping that would be the last I'd hear from her. Wishful thinking, of course. Amanda doesn't do graceful exits. She does scorched earth. The direct threats via email started almost immediately. A torrent of childish insults. Jealous shrew, bitter control freak, pathetic wannabe bridezilla, mixed with vague, ominous warnings about how I'd regret crossing her and how I was playing with fire. But it was her Instagram offensive that really took the harassment to a new, insidious level. She started by tagging me in a barrage of posts, making my username tiny and almost invisible in the corner, so other people wouldn't necessarily notice, but I would get every single infuriating notification. Then came the Ask Me Anything sticker on her stories, where I'm 99% sure she was asking herself leading questions. One was, perfect outfit for a wedding you're dying to go to, complete with a selfie of her in a gorgeous, very wedding-appropriate dress. Captioned, This masterpiece? Sadly, I'll probably never get to wear it now, sob. Another pet peeve question led to a thinly veiled rant about nosy, controlling people who think they have the right to dictate other people's lives and happiness. She flooded her stories with sad, supposedly poignant quotes about lost friendships and girls who aren't girls, tagging me in every single one. I meticulously screenshotted everything, my anger building with each manipulative post. This wasn't just a tantrum. This was a calculated campaign to paint herself as the victim and me as the monster. The drama had officially spilled out of our family argument and was now playing out for a public, albeit small, audience. And I had a sinking feeling Amanda was just getting warmed up. Amanda's Instagram antics were just the tip of the iceberg. True to my sinking feeling, she wasn't content with just passive-aggressive posts. She actively started spreading a twisted narrative among our old high school friends. A few of them, bless their loyalty, reached out to me almost immediately. Hey Sarah, one message read, just a heads up, Amanda's telling people you originally invited her to the wedding, but then Leah threw a fit and forced Mark to get you to disinvite her. Sounds like total BS, but thought you should know. Another friend confirmed Amanda was painting Leah as a jealous, controlling shrew, and me as a spineless sister caving to her future sister-in-law's unreasonable demands. The audacity was breathtaking. She was trying to rewrite history, positioning herself as the poor, innocent victim of Leah's supposed insecurity. The truly gratifying part? Almost no one bought her story. Many of our old circle had already distanced themselves from Amanda over the years, tired of her constant drama and self-centeredness. The girls in our old friend group, after Amanda apparently cornered them with her sob story, collectively blocked her number when she started bombarding their phones with incessant whining texts after they didn't offer her the sympathy she craved. Even some of the guys still connected to Mark through shared hobbies quietly messaged me to warn me about the rumors Amanda was peddling. It was a small comfort, knowing that her reputation for toxicity preceded her, but it didn't lessen the sting of her malicious efforts. Of course, Mark's reaction to all this was entirely predictable. When word got back to him that Amanda was being shunned, read people weren't buying her lies, he didn't pause to consider why. Instead, he panicked, immediately assuming I had launched some sort of counteroffensive smear campaign against his precious Amanda. My phone started blowing up with furious texts and missed calls from him. What the hell did you do, Sarah? One all-caps text screamed. Amanda is a wreck because of you. People are attacking her. How could you be so vindictive? He accused me of bullying her, of trying to isolate her, conveniently ignoring the fact that Amanda's isolation was entirely a product of her own toxic behavior. He then escalated things by calling our mother, hysterically claiming Amanda was severely depressed, on the verge of a breakdown, and that if anything happened to her, he would never forgive me. He was actually trying to hold me responsible for Amanda's emotional state, a state she masterfully manipulated for maximum effect. My mom, thankfully, is no fool. She's seen Amanda's act one too many times. She told Mark, in no uncertain terms, that if he was genuinely concerned for Amanda's well-being, he should call for a professional welfare check, because neither he nor our family were equipped to handle or diagnose such a situation, especially given Amanda's history of dramatic exaggerations. She also pointed out that perhaps Amanda wouldn't be so depressed if she stopped trying to sabotage other people's happiness. Mark naturally didn't appreciate that dose of reality, but the most seismic shift in this whole sorry saga came from an unexpected quarter. Leah. She called me a few days after Mark's meltdown, her voice quiet but strained. "Sarah," she began, I don't think I can come to the wedding. And Mark and I, we might be over." My heart ached for her. I offered a listening ear, and we met for coffee the next day. What she recounted was an ugly 2-day emotional war. After Mark's hysterical phone call to my mom about Amanda, Leah had finally had enough. She calmly confronted Mark, demanding to see the texts between him and Amanda. Reluctantly, he'd shown her, and what Leah read confirmed her worst fears. It wasn't just friendly banter. It was an intense, ongoing emotional affair. Amanda constantly undermining Leah. Mark confiding in Amanda about his relationship problems with Leah. Secret meetups, declarations of being soulmates who understood each other like no one else could. Leah, devastated but resolute, made Mark read every single incriminating text out loud. She even sent copies to one of her trusted male friends, whose immediate reaction was, "Leah, WTF, this is not okay. He's completely disrespecting you." Armed with this validation, she told Mark their relationship couldn't continue as long as Amanda was in his life. When he pathetically begged her to stay, swearing he'd change, his phone had rung. It was Amanda, hysterical, claiming I was bullying her again. Mark's immediate instinct? To rush to comfort Amanda, leaving Leah standing there, watching her entire relationship crumble under the weight of his obsession. That was the final straw. While he was in the other room playing hero to Amanda, Leah packed a bag and later texted him that he needed to move out of her apartment while she went away for a few days. Her conditions were clear. Cut Amanda out of his life completely, no contact, and get intensive therapy for his unhealthy attachment patterns. The golden boy, for once, was facing real, tangible consequences for coddling his toxic bestie. Leah, despite the immense pain Mark and Amanda had inflicted, handled her breakup with a quiet strength that I deeply admired. When we spoke further after she'd had some time to process, she was surprisingly philosophical. She recounted a specific incident where Amanda had deliberately sabotaged a romantic weekend Mark had planned for Leah, manufacturing a crisis that had him rushing to Amanda's side. "That was when the penny truly dropped, Sarah," Leah had said, her voice surprisingly steady over the phone. "He chose her drama over our peace, over me. For the longest time, I thought I could fix him, that if I just loved him enough or was patient enough, he'd see how destructive his bond with Amanda was. But you can't fix someone who doesn't see they're broken, who, frankly, seems to thrive on the chaos she creates." She talked about the importance of prioritizing oneself, of recognizing that being alone is infinitely better than being with someone who makes you feel lonely and undervalued, a constant afterthought. "Never go into a relationship thinking your love will be the miracle cure," she advised, her words resonating with a painful wisdom. "It usually just ends in more heartbreak for you, and they rarely change unless they truly want to." Her words resonated deeply. She was right. Mark needed to grow up, to either fully commit to Amanda and their toxic dynamic, or finally wise up to the fact that he was being strung along. And Amanda? She needed to grow up, period, and preferably on another continent. My own life, ironically, amidst this swirling vortex of familial chaos, had found a strange sort of calm in the lead-up to the wedding. Liam and I were focusing on the final details, a bubble of prenuptial excitement that felt almost surreal. One evening while we were addressing invitations, I paused, pen hovering. "What if he actually doesn't come, Liam?" I asked quietly. What if he chooses Amanda over his own sister's wedding? Liam pulled me close. Then that's his decision, sweetheart. A terrible one, but his. This day is about us, our love, our future. We won't let anyone, not even your brother, ruin that for us. His unwavering support was my anchor. I'd managed to compartmentalize to some extent. The wedding was going ahead. Mark's attendance was still a question mark. He hadn't spoken to me since Leah kicked him out, and I certainly wasn't chasing him. If he chose this path, it was his loss. My priority was my own happiness. Then the phone call came. It was late, well past midnight, the kind of oppressive silence where every tick of the clock sounds like a drum beat. Liam and I were asleep. The shrill, urgent ringtone sliced through the darkness, jolting me awake, my heart instantly lurching into my throat, pounding with a nameless dread. It was my dad, his voice strained, cracking in a way I'd never heard before, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. Sarah. It's Mark. There's been an accident. The world tilted, the air sucked from my lungs. I think I actually dropped the phone, fumbling to pick it up, my hands shaking. He was abroad, with Amanda. A car crash. My mind struggled to process the words. Mark? Amanda? Abroad? Why? Dad explained in fragmented, agonized sentences that they'd apparently gone on some impulsive, ill-advised holiday to clear their minds after Leah had thrown Mark out. A ridiculously irresponsible decision, given Mark was essentially homeless, jobless, and emotionally distraught. And now this. The universe had a cruel sense of timing. Getting concrete information was like pulling teeth from a shark. Amanda hadn't called us. Not a single word, no message, nothing. The hospital, in some remote rural part of a non-EU country, had eventually, after what sounded like considerable effort, managed to get through to Dad via an old emergency contact number Mark had thankfully listed somewhere. Mark's phone was shattered in the crash, so he couldn't contact anyone himself. A kind nurse, her voice heavily accented but gentle, had been the one to relay the terrifyingly sparse details. Mark was alive, but it was serious. Very serious. He couldn't speak to us. Dad was a wreck, trying to maintain a facade of control for me. But his voice was trembling, punctuated by ragged breaths. We have to go, Sarah. We have to go now. The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity, logistical nightmares, and a suffocating, ever-present anxiety that coiled in my stomach like a venomous snake. Getting plane tickets at such short notice to a relatively obscure, poorly serviced location was proving impossible. Exorbitant prices, convoluted routes with multiple layovers that would take days. The helplessness was crushing. In the end, after hours of desperate searching, we realized that driving, a grueling, non-stop journey across several international borders, was, unbelievably, our fastest option. By 5 a.m., Dad and I were in his aging but reliable car, fueled by lukewarm coffee and sheer, desperate adrenaline. The highway stretching out before us like an endless, monotonous ribbon of dread. The silence in the car was thick, heavy with unspoken fears, each of us lost in our own terrifying what-ifs. Dad gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white, his face a stony, unreadable mask I couldn't decipher. Was it anger at Mark's recklessness? Profound worry? Crushing guilt? Probably an unbearable cocktail of all three. I'd never seen that haunted expression on his face before. It was terrifying. I just stared out the window, the pre-dawn landscape a gray, featureless smear, my mind replaying every stupid argument I'd ever had with Mark, every harsh word now a potential regret. Yes, he was an idiot. Yes, he was selfish and had hurt so many people, especially Leah, and even me. But he was still my brother. Underneath all the layers of frustration and anger, a cold, primal fear was gripping my heart. I didn't want him to die. Please God, I just didn't want him to die. After what felt like an eternity of driving, the car smelling of stale coffee and fear, punctuated only by terse, anxiety-laden updates from the hospital nurse whenever we could get a signal, we finally arrived at the foreign hospital. The relief that he was alive was immense, a physical wave that almost buckled my knees as I stepped out of the car. The building itself was stark, utilitarian, the air tinged with an unfamiliar antiseptic smell. But Amanda? She was nowhere to be seen. The next few days in that sterile foreign hospital were a blur of hushed conversations with doctors through overworked translators The constant unnerving beeping of machines and a gnawing fear that clung to us like the damp hospital air. Mark was alive, yes, but he was far from okay. He was barely conscious, his breathing shallow, his body fighting a ferocious battle. It wasn't the minor injuries from the car crash that were threatening his life, as we initially assumed. The doctors, after a battery of tests, delivered the shocking diagnosis: severe sepsis. Apparently, Mark had developed a UTI on their ill-fated trip, which had rapidly escalated into a raging kidney infection. And then, terrifyingly, full-blown sepsis. They'd caught it late, dangerously late. The clearing their minds holiday had turned into a life or death struggle. Adding to our nightmare was the financial black hole opening up beneath us. Mark, in his infinite wisdom and likely egged on by Amanda's YOLO mentality, hadn't bothered with travel insurance for a trip to a country outside the EU. Every medication, every procedure, every day in that intensive care unit had to be paid for upfront, in cash, a figure that was already spiraling into tens of thousands. Mom and, incredibly, Leah were back home, frantically trying to untangle the insurance mess, calling Mark's provider, pleading, arguing, trying to arrange some sort of emergency transfer of funds, while Dad and I felt utterly helpless, stranded with a critically ill brother and dwindling resources. Then, Amanda reappeared. She sauntered into the hospital waiting room 2 full days after we arrived, looking not particularly distressed, but more like someone mildly inconvenienced. She claimed she hadn't abandoned Mark. She'd simply had to deal with the police regarding the car crash and then needed some time to process. Her version of events was a convoluted, self-serving mess. Mark had started feeling unwell a few days into their trip, she said. She'd offered to take him to an ER, but he, being stubborn, had declined. Instead, they'd gone out drinking. When they returned to their Airbnb, he'd complained of pain and taken some medication. She couldn't quite recall what, but worriedly noted, "You shouldn't mix it with alcohol." An argument had ensued. Mark had dramatically passed out. Why didn't she call an ambulance then when he was unconscious? She couldn't give a straight answer, just mumbled something about him coming to, and her then deciding to drive him herself. It was on the way to the hospital, she claimed, that she'd panicked and crashed into a barrier, the impact shattering Mark's phone, which he'd been holding. She'd then run into the clinic for help, staying with the car until police arrived. After that, the hospital wouldn't let her in because she wasn't family. But the most infuriating, most utterly selfish part of her story came next. Instead of immediately contacting us, his actual family, or even staying near the hospital, Amanda had decided she needed to decompress. She'd gone back to their Airbnb, gathered her things, and then checked into a nearby luxury hotel to rest and get herself together because the whole ordeal had been so overwhelming for her. She'd left my brother, critically ill and alone in a foreign country, with no way to contact anyone, for over 24 hours while she pampered herself. She even had the gall to post a serene-looking selfie from her hotel balcony, with a caption about finding peace amidst the chaos, while we were living our worst nightmare. When Dad and I, pale with exhaustion and fury, confronted her about this abandonment, she just shrugged. I really needed some me time. You have no idea how stressful this has been. The sheer, unadulterated narcissism of it left me speechless, a burning rage coiling in my gut. Here we were, terrified of losing Mark, financially crippled, and this woman, the catalyst for so much of his disastrous decision-making, was prioritizing her spa day. My dad looked like he was about to physically explode. I saw his hands clench, his jaw working, but then he caught my eye, a silent understanding passing between us. Mark, in his brief, lucid moments, kept weakly asking for Amanda, a pathetic fear in his eyes that she'd leave him. The doctors had warned us about any additional stress on him. So, with bile rising in our throats, we had to play nice to tolerate her presence, her vacuous comments, her utter lack of genuine remorse, all to protect Mark from the truth of her monstrous selfishness in his most vulnerable state. It was the bitterest pill I've ever had to swallow. Amanda's hospital visits were a masterclass in oblivious self-absorption. While Dad and I were hollowed out with fear for Mark's life, she'd flit in, complaining about her hotel's room service or how draining this ordeal was for her. Her main concern wasn't Mark battling sepsis, but if he was still mad at her for some petty pre-collapse argument. A few days into this nightmare, she cornered me. "Sarah," she whispered, voice a syrupy whine, "all this stress your family's bringing. constantly talking about money and Leah. It's not good for Mark's positive energy. That was it. My forced politeness disintegrated. Positive energy, Amanda? My voice was dangerously quiet, laced with ice. The only thing threatening Mark's life is the raging sepsis from your reckless trip. He's fighting for every breath while you're more concerned about your Instagram engagement. Her jaw dropped. How dare you, she gasped. I've been nothing but supportive. Supportive? A harsh laugh escaped me. Abandoning him when critically ill to decompress at a luxury hotel? Posting selfies while his family was frantic? You are a parasite, Amanda. You've fed off my brother's weakness, his misplaced loyalty for years. You cost him Leah, strained family ties, and now your recklessness has nearly killed him. She opened her mouth, but I sliced through her protest. We tolerate you here for Mark, only because in his delirium, he asks for you. But hear me. The moment he's stable, your access is cut. You will never come near him or us again. Your toxic show? It's canceled. Permanently. For once, Amanda was stunned silent, her victim act crumbling. Predictably, tears welled. I felt nothing but a cold, hard finality. I turned and walked away, leaving her a rapidly fading ghost in the sterile hospital corridor. My war with Amanda was over. Mark's war against his judgment, against the devastating truth of Amanda, was just beginning. He'd have to live with his choices and the chilling void where her loyalty should have been. As for Amanda, she could audition her drama for another fool. This family stage was permanently closed.